Hi, everybody, and welcome to our first panel talk of today. I am so excited to be introducing this talk and the speakers. We've got some incredible founders, writers, businesswomen, and men in this panel talk, and I'm really, really excited for us to be able to bring this conversation to light. I think that Black founded brands have had an incredible they've been an incredible talking point over the last few years, which has been so needed and underserved, I guess, for the beauty industry. And actually, to give these guys a voice, to hear what they're doing, is so incredible and inspiring. And I hope that you agree. I'm going to bring everyone on, get them to introduce themselves. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the audience chat. We look forward to hearing from you and continuing the convo. Okay, hi. Let's get everybody in. It's a big one. Okay, amazing. Everyone's here. We're all live. I'm gonna just go round the team, but if you can each introduce yourself. Teresa, let's kick off with you. Give us a short intro to who you are and Skin Alchemist. That'd be brilliant.
Hi, everyone. It's lovely to be here despite the crap weather today. I'm Teresa. I'm the founder of Skin Alchemist, and Skin Alchemist is a plant-based skincare brand prided on Caribbean culture, because I'm from, like I said, St. Lucia, and in that brand, we bring in all the tradition, the heritage from the Caribbean that we know so well. And the brand primarily produces products that helps you maintain your best, healthiest skin.
Amazing. Thank you. And Kyle?
Hey everyone, my name's Kyle Frank. I'm the founder of Frank's Remedies. So Frank's Remedies is a vegan skincare range specifically for acne-prone skin, but our clearing skin approach is slightly different. We like to use ingredients that are like multifunctional, that help to balance the skin, but also improve skin health. So you're not going to have all those harsh, drying feeling and sensations with using this range.
Brilliant. Joy?
Good morning. My name is Joy Adenuga. I'm a pro makeup artist and founder of by Joy Adenuga. And what do? I design beauty tools. Most popular are my brushes, which, my baby, my pride and joy. But I'm more into beauty tools just to make applying your makeup a piece of cake.
Amazing. Thank you, Joy. And Winnie?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Winnie Awa, and I'm the founder of Kara. We are a personalization platform that basically helps you get the best version of your hair. We do this by providing expert one-on-one advice, tailored hair care routines, and personalized product recommendations.
Amazing. Thanks, Winnie. And Ava?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ava. I'm a beauty editor, currently freelance. I'm also a brand consultant and a columnist. I have a column at Wardrobe Icons called Ask Ava. So it's like a agony aunt type of situation.
Love that. And JK?
Hi everyone, I'm Joke Adejumo. I am the founder of Bodied Massage Studio, which is based in Hackney in East London. And we focus quite primarily on trying to create more of an equal playing field for people of colour within the complementary health and allied health services.
Amazing. Thank you. An amazing group of founders and speakers here today. So thank you guys for joining. I'd love to kick off with you, Winnie. So your business was, specifically designed for women of textured hair and Afro hair. Can you tell us a little bit more about the creation of Kara and sort of what initiated the business and the concept?
Yeah, of course. So my experience actually goes back to the first platform that I created, which is called Antidote Street. And it was essentially an e-commerce website that curates hair care products for textured hair, because for me, it was something that I felt like I needed. given that I actually I didn't actually understand my hair. I didn't know my hair was curly until like the age of 30, which is like completely bonkers. So I first set up Antidote Street, and in setting that up, we grew a massive community, and we just kept hearing the same thing over and over and over again, which was around, how do I care for my hair? So even though you had all of these products on a shelf, or even, I mean, you see that experience both in physical spaces and also in online spaces, where you walk into a store and products are rammed literally from the floor right up to the top, and they're all screaming at you, and you have no idea how to pick the right thing to use, or you have no idea how to actually care for your hair in a way that is actually unique to it. We tend to see quite a lot of noise in the market, where, you know, new products are essentially being created practically every day, it feels like, which I think is fantastic, because we're coming from a place where, you know, you never really had that much access to products. But the flip side of that is it also causes kind of confusion.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, when you actually don't have the guidance, you don't have the education, it actually causes confusion and overwhelm in terms of like, where do I even start from? So that's really where Kara came from. We're creating that to plug the gap around guidance and to plug the gap around education, because we know that there's no one size that fits all. What works for me definitely will work for you, Joke, or will work for you, Ava, and vice versa. So for us, it's about centering the individual, centering their experience, centering their curl texture, centering, you know, their locks, their weaves, whatever is their kind of like essentially aesthetic choice. We want to be able to honor that and help them create a personalized routine. And that's where it came from, really.
Amazing. And it's also developed since you launched. And I think that's, I guess, really interesting. The more you've spoken to consumers, your customers, it's been a evolving business and lots of change.
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone who's creating a business, you know, it's never, you don't just do it and it's done, right? You're constantly learning, you're constantly speaking to people who are using your platform. And I think that that's really important, because without your community, without your co-creators, how can you create a beautiful product? How can you create something that will last? And for us, like, we really take that to heart. Like, I'm constantly literally just saying, hey, can we grab 15 minutes over Zoom? I just want to learn about your experience, if you've used it. But even if you haven't used it, I also want to know, because I want to know if there's something missing for you. And then we basically plan that into how we evolve and improve the platform that we're building.
Love that. So I guess, I mean, customers today really want transparency, authenticity, and that is all part of, I mean, all of your businesses. How do you share that with your audiences so that you kind of feel like they're part of your community? I mean, Carl, shall we go to you for this one?
Yeah, so like with our packaging and stuff like that, I like to clearly display that the all the product components are 100% recyclable, and where our product boxes are biodegradable, we like to actually put that on the box as well. And especially with our communication on like social media and through like emails and stuff like that, we always like to remind the customers like where the ingredients are coming from, the reasons why those types of suppliers were chosen based on like best cultivation practices and stuff like that. And I think also, being someone that suffered with like acne myself, I always try to do videos as well, and really communicate my own experience as well, and how that helped influence the formulations of the products as well. So I can kind of like look back at a picture and see my skin state was in this way. I can like point it out and be like, okay, there's like uneven like skin hair, there's like acne scars, and this is how we can treat it. So yeah, definitely using my own experience with that too.
Yeah, I guess yours is kind of similar to Winnie's in respect that like she didn't have anything out there to help kind of understand the hair care market, and for you it was your skincare or your skin condition that kind of led you to start Frank's Remedies. And I think that that's so important, having that personalized touch. I mean, Joy, for you, you're very much the face of your brand and front the campaigns, and is that for you a big part of being a founder? You're still muted.
I forgot I'm on mute. Yes. Because I just believe I'm telling a story. And also, it's from my experience, my brand was founded. So it was it was a difficult decision being the face of my brand, but I just felt it's a lot more transparent because I can use my story to tell where the brand is coming from. I didn't just wake up one morning, I'm like, oh my God, what should I do? Brushes. But over the years, people that have followed me, I've always known that I'm quite passionate about tools. And so I kind of use my platform to tell the story, explain why, give advice and educate the public on how to use the products, where the products are from, and just general information about the products.
Love that. And I think that, I mean, Teresa, for you, your brand is all about the old history and the ancient traditions that were used in your family. And for me, that's what I love about beauty. I love seeing founders actually bring their personal experience to the forefront and really engage an audience that either maybe had never heard about some of the ancient traditions or ingredients or practices. How can you share a little bit more about your experience and why that was so important for you?
Well, for me, I mean, like I said, I'm from the Caribbean, and the Caribbean is the perfect mix of so many different cultures and ancient traditions. So from the African slaves, when they think of the Caribbean, most times they think of slaves, but we've got the African slaves who brought over their traditions. We've got the indigenous Amerindians from the Amazon basin, the Indian indentured laborers, who also brought in their traditions. So when you've got all of these cultures in just the islands, the people from the Caribbean tend to take from all of these cultures, and that is the basis of where the self-care, the healing traditions come from. So if you've got an ailment or skin condition, there's a plant for this, there's a salt for that. So it was very important, and there wasn't any other brand on the market, I felt, that was focusing on Caribbean ancient traditions. It was generally, and I hate to bring maybe race into this, but it was generally a white founder would go to Africa or go to somewhere in South America. The locals there would be using some hero ingredient. They would take it and say, look, I spent 6 months in that country. The locals used to use this ingredient and it made their hair lovely, their skin lovely, and now I'm putting that in a brand. So it's very important for me as a Caribbean to dive into what I know, what was my everyday, and bring that to the forefront, use that in a brand, and also very much what we use does work. And the plants and the traditions and the heritage that we've been using in the Caribbean have been used for millennia throughout all these different cultures, and also to get recognition for that. I think very much sometimes Blacks particularly tend to be categorized as a Black founder and not just on the open spare as everybody else.
Absolutely. And when I spoke to you, Ava, we spoke about kind of the importance of bringing these ancient traditions and the founders being really at the forefront of brands today, and why it's so important. Who for you is, I mean, you must see lots of amazing brands launching. Who for you is sort of standing out at the moment, and why?
I think what's really piqued my interest lately with new launches has been the sustainability aspect, whereas before, yeah, like Teresa said, it was a lot of there was maybe more of like a colonial touch to going to Africa and sourcing ingredients like baobab or moringa. So I think that, you know, brands like Yendi Skin, which launched recently, and brands like Liha Organics, they really pride themselves on sort of creating sustainable practices or really giving respect to the sustainable native practices which have always been there. You know, things like baobab, I've been educated so much by like the founder of Yendi Skin about baobab and how it's actually used and harvested in a way which is so anti like the Western approach to harvesting things. You know, all of the tree is used in its entirety for food, for skincare, to create, you know, mats and things to carry things in. So, and these practices have been around, you know, since the beginning of time. So I think sustainability and Black-owned brands is such a big topic to watch, because it can teach us all so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joko, for you, am I saying your name right?
Joke is the kind of the anglicized version, but that's fine.
Sorry. Okay, Joko.
Perfectly.
Is that right? Okay, good. For you, like opening your massage studio and kind of working with different brands, what for you are you looking for? What's important?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's important for me, is, especially when working with new brands, new suppliers and so forth, is that they actually have a respect for the type of work that I'm doing in trying to alleviate some of the disparities that come with complementary health, with allied health services. Because, you know, for me personally, I always led a very kind of active lifestyle, and walking into a physiotherapist because I've done my knee in, or I've done something to my back, or something's wrong with my foot, the only people that I ever saw receiving treatment were Caucasian. And being, you know, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the only brands that I work with are Black-owned businesses, no, but there has to be a level of understanding and a level of respect with what it is we're trying to achieve. There was an interesting report that was actually published by the government at the end of 2020 that said that people of colour are more likely to live in pain. And so when somebody comes into my studio, if they can recognise themselves in the treatment, if they can in the therapist, if they can recognise themselves in the types of products that we use, no matter if they're Black, if they're Asian, if they're Caucasian, then that's a good thing. And I think that's what Bodied really kind of sets out to achieve.
I remember when we first spoke, you said that you just wanted it to be such an inclusive place, and for everyone that walked in the doors to feel welcome and I guess respected and heard. What kind of things are you doing to ensure that continues?
Yeah, so I think one of the key things I'm doing is the messaging, and a lot of that can be seen through things like my newsletter, and even things such as the health consultation form, whereby I've taken quite a lot of time and done a lot of research to make sure that the questions that we ask are inclusive as possible, and nobody feels that I can't answer that question because it doesn't apply to me. So I've done a lot of work in making sure that even the health questionnaire is as inclusive as possible. Aside from that, you know, being a woman of color who was born and raised in Hackney, I tried to make sure that I stay true to the type of language that I use. So that's how we even came up with the idea of Bodied. You know, I'd sit there with my brothers and be like, oh, we just bodied that jollof rice, you know, and it's just, again, it applies to how we use the body and what we aim to do and the type of results that we try to get in the studio. Whereas before we had a different name, which was Align London, and it very much felt like it catered to one type of customer in the market, in the kind of the ecosystem in Hackney. And just changing the name to Bodied just felt so much more inclusive. It felt fresh, but it also kind of felt like it was something for everyone.
Yeah. And Winnie, you also changed the name, I guess the business concept also changed slightly too. Where did Cara come from? What was the inspiration?
Yeah, we did. I mean, they're essentially two different entities, actually, but Cara actually stems from love. That's the if you trace the root of the word Cara, it's actually all about love. And when I was reflecting on it, you know, Antidote Street felt very functional. It felt very come and get your antidote here. And Cara has, you know, a deeper significance for me, because we're now talking about the way you feel, right? One of the things that makes me so excited is, you know, when people have had, you know, sessions with our experts on our platform, and then they say, hey, I feel a lot more confident, I feel a lot more empowered. Like, that feeling is something that you just can't really replace, and that's ultimately what we're interested in, you know, making people feel good. And that's where the name came from.
I love that. I think that's so important, and I think all of you really do that so well with your brands, is that inclusivity element, and making your customers really feel valued and heard, I guess. Have any of you had any kind of positive, negative, I mean, both, I'm sure, experiences that have helped you kind of build and grow your companies? Anyone want to take that? Teresa?
I think for me, one of the most, the positive experiences I've had is being in what's called Green Beauty or referred to as Green Beauty. The community is so supportive, particularly with the other brands. So that's always beautiful. It's very difficult to get a competitor who would want to be your friend and who would want to share. So that's been a very good side. I think the negative is trying to break out of the Black brown founder title, because because I'm a Black brand fan, that's all the brand is seen at, a Black brand. It's not seen as a brand. So even although we're trying to, or Skin Alchemist is a premium brand. So if I were to focus and try to approach them, automatically I'm categorized as the Black brand. So that's the category that we try to compete for in category. And also, if they try to consider your brand, it's because they're trying to fulfill a quota. So we have the 1%. So if we have already taken one Black brand for the year, then that's it, rather than actually have a quota for 5 premium brands. And so that's the negative, just trying to break that ceiling that we're a Black founder brand rather than we are a brand. And lastly, if it's also a Black founder brand, for some reason you can't premium, or it's like it's so difficult in that premium category, which again is the category that I play in, or Skin Alchemist plays in. It's like you have to be a Black founder, and there's a particular price point that you can't max as well.
That's interesting. And I guess Ava and I were speaking about this, but I think that everything in like the Black Lives Matter campaign was in some ways really great at kind of championing and giving the space for Black founded brands to come to light, but also you don't want to kind of be boxed into that category because you are a premium skincare line. You should sit alongside every other brand. And is that kind of how you feel?
Yeah, exactly. When brands definitely consider Skin Alchemist, in my experience, it has been. I mean, Skin Alchemist is also a very small brand, relatively unknown brand. I'm not sure, apart from Joe K, I'm not sure how many other even on the panel have heard about Skin Alchemist per se. So it means that we need to sit alongside. Hi, Frank, have you known?
I have, yeah.
Well. It means that if we sit in the premium category, we need to sit alongside these other brands, because marketing budget is spent. It's spent for that category, and it helps us. But if you only stick us or pigeonhole us in the Black brand category, and we now have to fight in that category for brand awareness, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, no, totally. Any of you others, Joy, you want to add into that?
I want to pick up on the Black founded name, because I'm on the fence with that name. At the beginning, I liked it. Then at some point, I don't like it. And the reason why is when it comes to stockists. On one end, you want everyone to see you as somebody that's just founded a very good brand and makes amazing products. But at the end of the day, when you go to literally, and I feel bad saying this, all the major stockists we have in the UK, and count how many Black founded brands they have on their websites, it's quite sad. So that's what makes me on the fence, because it's like they just kind of, I think somebody made this is not my own statement, but I think one debate I was in, they literally use like a wheelbarrow and roll everybody out during Black History Month, then everyone back into the cupboard after Black History Month. So at one point, I don't want to be known as the Black founded person, but on the other end, when I'm saying that we are not a lot in high street stores, it just kind of, it's like this thing that never ends. And that is literally the only negative I've rated, which is we are still struggling to get into a lot of the premium stockists. They don't still kind of, I'm not sure what the reason is, I'm hoping somebody can educate me one day why they seem not to want to stock Black founded products on their website till this is 2022. So yeah, that is still my challenge, negative, and yeah, that's literally the main thing I'm facing at the moment, to be honest.
I think unless the stockists themselves re-educate and rewire their brains that a brand is a brand and it's not a Black founder brand, that will always be, unfortunately, the place, because it seems that every other colored brand is a brand, and if you have a bit of color, you're a Black founder brand, and they need their buying team, their beauty buyers, they need to re-educate them, and they need to change the way that they think and just see a brand for a brand. Can I just be a brand that makes good products that work and not the Black founder brand? I mean, today we won, Time Traveler won best face cream in 2 categories in Beauty Shortlist, and our serum won best serum in 1 of the categories. And I'm sure it will be throughout the Instagram today, Black founder brand. Can it just be that I made a damn good face cream and in 2 categories rather than the Black founder did that?
Yeah. No, I totally hear you. And now I feel like this is a controversial name for this talk, but I think this conversation needs to be had. And I think that listening to you guys and actually hearing your voice and understanding where you're coming from, it's so inspiring, and you're completely right. I totally agree. Winnie, you were nodding along there. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I totally hear everything that everybody is saying. This feels like this debate, any discipline you look at, you see it. You see it with people who are creating fashion brands. You see it with artists. It's everywhere. From our perspective, we don't create brands. We are a digital platform. So the experience is different in that we're not necessarily looking to get into retailers. For us, where this gets highlighted is more when we're having conversations around investments. So for instance, there's this sort of blinker that just the minute you talk about textured hair, the full spectrum of textured hair, be it the looser curls or the tighter curls, people instantly sort of are quite myopic and think that it's a niche market. But you can't really call it a niche market when 65% of the world have one form of textured hair or the other. It just really, really isn't. But I think that there's an assumption that it is niche, which again ends up putting you in a box, and that's not quite right. That's something that it's a conversation that we have quite regularly, and I know that we'll continue to have. But from our perspective, we're constantly thinking global. We're constantly thinking global, and for us, it's about, when we make any kinds of partnerships of that kind, it's about the right person who actually understands what we're about and what we're trying to build, as opposed to putting us in a box.
Absolutely. I feel like there's still a huge education piece needed across investment buyers, the whole industry really. And Ava, for you, we spoke about this on our Instagram Live for any of those that watched, but I mean, the industry has already changed in the last 5-10 years hugely. Where do you kind of see the future?
I think, what we've just been talking about, I think that, we've known this for a while, but I think that the industry and brand and, things like retailers and, press and magazines are waking up to the idea that Black people are not a monolith, and it's perfectly fine for half of the Black-owned brand founders to say, I just want to be known as a brand first and foremost, and then the other half to have a completely different opinion. Like, we don't all have to think the same way. I think that, when I started out being a beauty journalist and being an intern, as we spoke about in the Instagram Live, I was the only non-white person in the entire team. So it was quite a weird pivoting point where suddenly, things like Fenty were launching, and suddenly, black female owned brands was like such a trendy topic, and the articles that I've been pitching for a year or two suddenly were being accepted and put through. And I think that, you know, with the advent of so many different brands launching, or even just respect being paid due to the ones that have been here for so long without being ever featured in a magazine or having a spotlight shown on them, or getting shelf space at Harrods or Liberty, or even Look Fantastic, I think that we're now entering the stage where we had a lot of the performative support and genuine support during BLM in 2020, and all of these pieces and spotlights being showcased. And I think now we're entering the phase where, you know, people can decide how they want to market their brand. And, you know, it is really saddening to just always hear these stories about being stocked or not being stocked at a certain retailer, and there only being space for, you know, a handful of, you know, speakers of color at, you know, a panel or things like that. I think the tokenism is having a huge spotlight being shown on it, and now we're just going to diversify the diversity and make it so that we are no longer just such a small little pigeonhole that everyone has to fit into. And if you don't want to fit into that pigeonhole, then you're not being seen as ungrateful to the opportunities that are being given to you. Like, everyone has the power to define themselves. And yeah, I just think just living in the complexity of our industry, which is amazing.
And that kind of leads me quite nicely on to Joy. You've been very excitingly been named the ambassador for Number 7. How was that for you? And was that like, that must have been a huge pinnacle moment for your career? And yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
I think once the shock wore out, because that's a different topic for another day. We're trying to work with like brands, and when you don't even realize that they've been watching you, which is an advice to anybody watching this, just do your best. You do not know who is watching. Like, I did not even realize they had been watching me all these years, not months, not days, not weeks. They've been watching me, my growth and everything, before they now finally reached out that they would love to work with me and for me to be the ambassador. So it was, I would say, one of my many accomplishments as a makeup artist. So my role is obviously to bring more awareness to the brand, Number 7. And one thing I liked about the brand, they had lists, and this is one thing that I loved hearing Ava say. They had listing, not just, we don't have a lot of foundation shades, so whatever. They had listing, they had gone back and expanded their shade range. So it's more or less getting somebody to kind of preach the gospel that, look, we've taken your negative feedbacks, we've gone back to the lab, we've done all this, like we've increased the shade and the shades and the undertones. They were so they literally took in the undertone feedback and they worked with it. So more or less to bring awareness to the brand and also help them with loads of launches they have this year, and also educate how to use most of their products. That's going to be my role.
That's amazing, and I think so needed. And I guess like that's the exciting part for me, is like seeing. Sorry, I might need to ask you to mute yourself. Thanks. It's just finally seeing kind of like it was like Fenty, I feel like, started it, but now having you in a position that you are in, being able to help develop these like mass brands to cater to a wider audience is finally kind of here, thank goodness. Kyle, for you, you've had some kind of standout moments as well for your career. Will you tell us a little bit more about your TV experience?
Yeah. I was on BBC One, The Customer's Always Right, which was really exciting. They showed the products to people that were 40, 50, with a whole mix of different ethnicities and stuff like that. And that whole experience was really like eye-opening. It helped me understand that the products are also for people that suffer with the post-acne, like inflammation and scarring and blemishes and stuff like that as well. And it was just amazing for them to all see that their all skin looked improved. It looked a lot more glowier and it looked a lot clearer. So yeah, that was one amazing thing.
And will you tell us a little bit more about Virgin and Richard Branson?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I did one of
underselling yourself very much so here.
Richard Branson done a tweet about the brand and stuff like that. After I did an interview with Virgin, he read it and stuff like that. His daughter posted about it, and then the whole Virgin team posted about it, which was really exciting. And then just a few days ago as well, it was really exciting to speak alongside Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield about our clearing face cream, which includes rose quartz. So it was all about crystals and stones and the effect it can have on the body. But the reason, the different approaches why sometimes people may use different ones. So yeah, that was really exciting.
And some great kind of press coverage and brand awareness there.
Yeah.
Have for you, Ava, can you give any of the brands watching some tips on how they can kind of get noticed by the media, and what's the best way to get in front of a journalist?
I mean, not all journalists will agree with me. I don't know if you'd agree, Sam, but I much prefer an Instagram DM rather than an email. My inbox is always horrible. But that's the way that I've cultivated like some real friendships with some brand owners. I think that, you know, if you can slide into my DMs and I can actually see your Instagram, I can see how your customers are engaging. It's more of a visual thing rather than, you know, maybe I'm also more likely to respond. It sounds bad, but I'm more likely to respond to an email like from the founder that's just landed in my inbox rather than, you know, I think a lot of brands they rush to maybe join a PR company that might not be the right fit for them and doesn't speak their language. Then the way that I'm, you know, the information that I'm being delivered by a PR company that doesn't really get the brand is going to make me sort of just glance at it and then maybe forget about it. So I think, yeah, either choose a PR agency if you want to go down that route who really understands you and gets your brand, or just slide into my DMs. Obviously not bombarding anyone, but I think there we can have real conversations, and, you know, that's the thing. I think also just having a really compelling story, like as much as you know, I don't think you have to have a compelling story to make it as an up and coming brand, but I'm a journalist, and what's going to get, you know, people to click or, you know, read an article that I'm featuring, it has to be something which is a little bit different. And now we've moved past the stage of everyone look at this brand because it's founded by a Black person. You know, identify what makes you a little bit more niche and what makes you unique. You know, are you someone who's leading the way in, you know, the beauty tech space like Winnie, or, you know, is it, you know, I find that, you know, Joke, what you're doing is absolutely incredible because it's bringing in this whole conversation about how the wellness industry is so whitewashed, and that's a conversation that's only in the past year or so started to really gain traction. So, you know, just, or even if you just have like an amazing bestseller, or you have your own retail space and you don't want to, you know, be stocked somewhere else, you're just focusing and it's very, you know, small and centric, or if every member of your family is involved in the process, and, you know, things like that. I just think that there are so many little ways that you can set yourself apart from other brands, and it's just about identifying that, even speaking to your customers about how they see you, or, you know, just, I really think that the niche thing and the true like brand fingerprint and blueprint and identity is the best way to sell your brand to get coverage, because that's how help us write the article, really help us pitch it and see your true uniqueness, I think
that what you said is really interesting, because I think the whole point, I mean, as a journalist, it's all about the storytelling, and as a brand, I guess that's what you're creating is you're creating something to help tell your story and share your experience. And Joke, can you touch on that from your point of view, like how how do you spoke about earlier how the language in which you speak to your customers is so important. What other things do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I actually studied fashions, and I always spent a lot of time researching. So I love reading, and one of the big things for me is the information that I actually put out there. So I read articles upon articles about, you know, the industry, about what GPs are experiencing in terms of patients and people's experience of pain management, and I share that information with my customers and with my clients quite a lot, but in a way which is unique to me. So it might start, the title in the email might start off with blood. And then I'll carry on from there. And I think it's just kind of true to the type of customers that I'm seeing in my studio, and the type of customers I want to continue to attract. So, you know, there's that kind of colloquial level of it, but then there's also the science and the data to back it up. So I think that's really important in terms of the inclusion side of things, and making sure that the language that I'm using is staying true to who I am and to the wider audience. I think there was an article which I had actually published, a very small snippet, which was the first line of that article was in Hindu, and it was just a woman exclaiming to her GP that she was in pain. And she was saying, my whole body hurts. And it's a case of, why is that? And why is nothing being done about that? Why is it just not that your wrist hurts, but your whole body? And could there have been more to help her before it got to that stage whereby her whole body hurts? And I shared that on Instagram, and a woman brought in her mother-in-law to the studio because they had seen that post on Instagram, and was like, well, we decided to come here because you speak our language, even though I don't speak your language, but that was the reason why they came in. So making sure that the messaging and the language is wholesome, and it incorporates everyone and everything.
I completely agree with that. And I think like we're all now so inundated with information that actually trying to create something that stands out, that catches people's attentions, but actually relates to them is obviously key. I'm conscious of the time, but if anyone has any questions, please pop them in the chat and we will ask them at the end. But I would love to, I'd love to ask all of you who has inspired you in your business or your personal life to get you to kind of where you are today. Teresa, shall we start with you?
Oh dear, you put me on the spot here,
Oh,
because
sorry.
been so many people that have there's been so many people that have inspired me professionally, from those that I follow, the business owners that I follow, to the small brand founders and everybody who sends me encouraging DMs. So I'll go to my personal life. In my personal life, I do it all for my little girl.
Oh, love that. I remember when I first met you, I think she was young. How old is she now?
She'll be 4 in May.
So you must have just had her, I think, when we first met, or she was 1 or 2 years old. And I remember you.
Yeah, I had her the year I launched the brand, so that would be 20. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, I was emailing. I was literally inducing labor and emailing the designers of the packaging and all of that. Yeah.
Love that. Kyle, who for you is your inspiration that gets you up in the morning and going?
Instinctively, I felt to say, just like the customers, I feel like just really being able to just help them, and then like basically saying like how thankful they are with certain things and stuff like that. I think that's what always really keeps me passionate. And I think about also like learning about new like skin concerns and stuff like that, learning about new ingredients, learning about other ways to help and educate people on their skin, I think is really inspiring to me. It helps me like wake up in the morning and want to do the best that I can for that day.
Amazing. And Joy, for you?
For me, my inspiration remains Danessa Myricks. She's a Black woman like myself. She's a makeup artist like myself. She's not a youngie like myself. I'm looking at 40 the next 2 months. So it's one of those things like no matter what age you are. Yeah, I'll be 14 in April.
You look amazing for 40.
Thank you. So with her, because I've attended a lot of her chats and like live, she started her business at not a young age. and the way her business has grown, the way it's still growing, the way she educates, like, and I was amazed. She actually invited me to do a masterclass in her university. And yeah, she's inspired me even before she started her business, just watching her grow. And yeah, I could go on for an hour about Danisa, but yeah, she's a huge inspiration to me.
I love that. And for you, Winnie?
Mine is a coming at it from a very different perspective. So thinking of myself as a creator, I think a lot of the journey of building a business is like almost like I liken it to like a the biggest personal development that you could ever do. And for me, I look at people who are unashamed to be like 100% themselves, because I think increasingly this journey of building, it's almost starting to feel prescriptive, the idea of the girl boss. So I look at people who are not ashamed to be themselves, like people like Solange, for instance. Solange Knowles is a big inspiration because she just does whatever she feels like doing, and you could tell that she's doing it with her entire soul and body. And that's just a reminder for me to always be in my own body, always do things from my own perspective, because that ultimately rings true.
Love that. Amazing. Thanks, Whitney. Ava, what about for you?
For me, I think it has to be my mum and my grandma, because they were my first introduction to beauty, and I think their approach was so multifaceted, and I think it instilled in me the message that you don't have to be one type of buyer in the way that, I think the industry sometimes categorizes us in. So, the fact that they love things like the complete devotees to things like Vicks or like Pond's cold cream or, Dettol in the bath, but then also really luxurious shea butters straight from Ghana, or very, very expensive, cosmetic brands, or, hair brands and wigs and things like that. So I think having that all-round approach just made me see the power and resourcefulness that, Black women have when it comes to beauty. I think, yeah, it would be them.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Jacque, for you, who inspires you?
See, it's so clinical of me, but I watch people walking through the streets of London, particularly women of color, and it always inspires me to keep doing what I'm doing, because I'll kind of look at somebody, I'm like, oh, her hips dropping on the left. Oh, that's probably chronic now. And that keeps me going, strangely. But it just kind of says, you know what, there is so much more work to be done in trying to encourage people to seek out complementary health and allied health services as well. So it's strange, but yeah, I watch people walk and I analyze them, and that keeps me going.
Do you go up to them in the street and recommend?
I have to resist with every fiber of my being not to go up to people and say, come into my studio. But there is always the element of me. There's that side that says, you know what, I should just do it.
But I'd love it if someone said that. I always think that, like, if I was a makeup artist, Joy, you might laugh at this, but if I was a makeup artist and I saw someone with awful makeup, would I go up to them and be like, you're wearing completely the wrong shade foundation? And I guess it's probably like that for you in the body.
It is.
You want to share the wisdom without obviously overpowering everyone. I love that. We have a question in the chat from India. How can we, as consumers, support Black and minority founders? Who would like to answer that? Amazing, Joy.
One of the things I would say is, if you genuinely like the brand, not supporting because the person is Black, but one thing with small businesses that we do not have like the funding for like huge marketing campaigns. So word of mouth sometimes help. So I get like DMs from, there's no even face. I'm like, oh my God, I bought your brushes. I love it. And I'm literally begging, can you leave a review? Can you tell your friends, So if you genuinely like a product, please share, tell your friends, tell your family, tell whoever you can. It helps. It might look like something simple, but that cousin buys it, likes it, tells her friends, and the cycle just keeps going. So if you like a brand, like their service, like their product, just tell people, just help us spread the good news. That's personally, for me, that helps me a whole lot.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think all the awareness that every brand that's doing great things can do is fantastic. Whether it's an Instagram story or a review or just sharing it with a friend is 100%. And then I've got one final question for you guys. For new founders that are sort of just starting out, early stages of their business, what advice would you guys give them? Winnie, should we start with you?
Ooh. So just starting out, not thinking about starting a business.
Yeah, well, just
Okay.
early stages of a business, or yeah, they haven't started it yet. And
okay, I think I would say one of the most important things that you can do is zero in on who you think your customer is and actually speak to them. Don't just do research and have like random numbers based on your Dr. Google. I would say just speak to them and speak to as many as possible that you can find. Feel free to ask them if it's okay to record that conversation, because sometimes you speak to tons of people and you then need to kind of like figure out who said what. But I would say just speak to them, learn from their experience, learn from what they struggle with, and even after you started the business, keep speaking to them, keep co-creating that community.
love that. I think, yeah, market research is so important. And also what you think as a founder and as like the center of the business might be completely different to what the customer is thinking. So yeah, totally, really important. Kyle, for you?
I think coming from it from like a formulation perspective, I think it's really important to be quite purposeful with whatever you're making, and really try to pinpoint those concerns within that product itself. I feel like sometimes with products we sometimes try and we want it to do everything, but I think my own experience is really best to pinpoint a specific concern and really build around that. I also think as well, any like founder starting a skincare brand, I think it's also quite important to sometimes not launch with too many products. And I think that's just it's best to kind of be able to communicate with whoever's using the products, all the features and benefits as well. And sometimes launching with more than 3 products can be quite difficult to do. So yeah, that would be my 2 tips.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Don't go too big too soon. Yeah. Get the feedback in first. Teresa, for you?
I would say 2 things. Whatever your budget is, triple it, because it's never the first budget. And the second thing would be, whatever you do it very honestly. Because I remember one time I got an email from a customer who said she bought 2 of my products and she had a breakdown. So she had been in a mental institution for months. And she said it was these only 2 products that kept her feeling normal and sane. And imagine if I didn't have all my faith and honesty into that I made 2 good products. So you never know whose hands your product ends up in. So if you put something out there, put a very honest product, a very honest business out there.
Yeah. That must have been really inspiring to kind of get that feedback about your brand and
yeah. In fact, in my email box, I have a folder called my Sunshine folder. So every time I get these sort of emails from customers, I stick it in there. So if I ever feel like, bloody hell, I made no money this month, nobody's buying this, nobody's answering my emails, I go in my Sunshine folder and I remind myself of who my people are.
That's amazing. I love that. I'm going to do that. Joy, for you?
Since it's the early stages, I would say, why do you want to start a business? Is it because it's trendy? Everyone is now a founder, everyone is now a small business owner. Like, why are you doing it? If you're doing it because everyone is doing it, I don't think it's going to last long. But if you're doing it because you genuinely believe in whatever you want to produce or give or offer, then yes, because as Teresa rightly said, every month is different. One month you're like, oh my God, I'm on cloud nine. Another month you're like, Jesus, maybe I should close it down. So if the passion is not there, like the real reason you started this in the first place, it can be very demoralizing. So I would say, since you're in the early stages, you need to ask yourself that all important question: why do I want to do this? Your reason is going to kind of keep you afloat when the days are not good.
Yeah, totally agree. And for you, Jackie?
It's similar to what Joyce just said there, in terms of kind of reminding yourself as the why you've started your business. You know, I don't particularly have a massive following in Instagram, but that doesn't necessarily translate into what we're doing in the studio, because the studio is always fully booked, and the Google reviews are fantastic. So just kind of making sure that your backbone is quite strong and you're steadfast in, I'm doing this because, not because we're trying to get likes or, you know, followers and all this kind of stuff, but because there is a genuine need and a necessity for what it is we're doing. Just trying to remind yourself constantly that you're trying to fill a gap that's in the market that you've identified. If you haven't done that, then I'd say take a step back and think about why it is you want to, what gap it is you're trying to fill. Yeah, and just, you know, stay steadfast and just keep going, as kind of sentimental and a bit airy-fairy as that sounds. You know, everyone has bad days, and sometimes it can be a little bit demoralizing. So, you know, reminding yourself that what it is you're doing is good work. So just kind of sheath your sword.
Amazing, thank you. And Ava, I mean, you're not a brand founder, but you're the kind of freelance, and you kind of run your own career. What about for you? What kind of what do you think is important for I guess freelance writers, or any advice that you would give new startup businesses?
I'd say, you know, if anyone wanting to get into writing or to journalism, I think I always try to play to my strengths, even when maybe it wasn't, you know, the thing to be talking about at the time. And I think from an early start, Sam and I were both saying we both were lucky enough to work at Stylist, and they really champion, you know, each writer's own identity and, you know, story. And I was able to tell so many stories about others and about myself. So having that positive reinforcement, and having to think in a way which was very different, and it was such a challenging time, but it was absolutely incredible. So yeah, I'd say just not looking at what everyone else is doing, just keep your sights ahead, and, you know, celebrate what makes you unique and all of that stuff, which we hear so much, but I don't know if we actually really implement it as much as we should. And yeah, just there's so much strength in conviction. Like, the whole reason why I went freelance was because I wanted to be in an environment where I felt valued as a young Black and mixed woman. And I thought, you know, where I was at the time, I didn't feel that way. And so, you know, my convictions and my pride in who I am led me to take a scary leap of faith, but it paid off. And I'm in a great place now. And everything happened a lot earlier than I thought it would, but, you know, I wouldn't change it for the world, and I feel very proud. So yeah, don't be scared, and just be honest and true to yourself.
Amazing, thanks guys. And I'm slightly off subject, but if anyone's watched the Kanye West documentary, he's like the I guess the showcase that if you believe in yourself and you just continue and really believe that you can do it, like, you can create such great success. I think all of you are really inspiring and have been so interesting to speak to today. So thank you for joining and being part of this. We really appreciate it. And thank you for everybody that has been watching. This session will be recorded and saved on the site, so you can come back and rewatch it anytime if you've missed any elements. But thank you guys for all being here and joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.